Good morning. It's Wednesday and I just finished clipping the goat's toenails and didn't video it at all. But the goats are acting like they've eaten all of the feed in our pasture, and it kind of looks like they have. I'm gonna do a little walkabout here, but we are gonna, the new electric fence came in, so we can expand their area pretty good. But they go through and they really do clean up a space. So yeah, it literally looks like they've eaten it all down. There's nothing. So they're all crying out because they want more things to eat. There's a couple of things, but when they leave stuff like that, it's just because it's not something that they're gonna eat. Is that what's wrong? You guys are starving to death now. Uh-huh. Oh yeah, that was all green the other day. Now there's nothing. All right, so I guess today we'll be putting that new electric fence up and moving them into a different area. We just gotta hope they stab into the ground, because this is all rock. Did you want to go for a car ride? Both of you? Chloe's like, I'm not even turning around. Oh, hey, girl. Justin, settle down. They're like, Kira, let's go. Let's do this. All right, we're going to go get a load of water because Victor's completely out of water and the dogs want to go. So they're going to go too. Shush. I know where your leashes are. Doo-dah, doo-dah. Morning, everybody. It is, what is today? Thursday. We took a lot of yesterday off, and I think today I'm going to turn into a prep day for Friday. I'm actually putting the water lines underneath the shipping container, plumbing my sink finally. Since we blocked that window, we can't just dump water out of there. But one of the big things that we are going to do this morning is my new electric fence came in. So we have 264-foot electric fences for the critters to do rotational grazing. And they have eaten down that whole area that we showed you Monday. So that took them a week. So I think that we are gonna try to fence in this entire area for them. There's not a lot there, but then we can rotate them down to the edge of the world over here, what I call the edge of the world. Hard part about all of this is it's shale. So we have to see where we can shove these into the ground. So that's gonna be a little bit difficult, but I'll just bring you back after we get it done and show you that they get to go in their new space. They definitely eat down a lot. So the rotational grazing truly does help with clearing the property. I'd love to put them over here, over in here, but they don't really like those. I mean, I guess I could put them there and just, they'll eat what's there and what they can eat. You know, if they're hungry, they'll eat. And I am planning on clearing that with the skid loader, like going in and scraping and all of that. So it may be a really good idea to put them in there and let them graze that down. It's kind of one of those things that if we put them over here, and then we put them over here, and then we put them over here, and we put them over here, moving them's not a big deal because they can be in the fencing. And you know, you throw some grain out, they run to eat that, and then you have time to move fencing and they don't try to take off. Good morning, Donald. Morning, Betty. Oh, aren't you cute? Oh, bye. Everybody's ready for breakfast. Girl, what are you doing out? What are you doing out? So I have allowed the baby goats to go back with mama. We're bringing in a second milking goat, so it's not like I need 2 gallons of milk a day. So babies are with mama all night long. I'm not milking in the morning. I am pulling her to the stanchion, giving her her grain so her milk production stays up, and we're milking her in the evening, and then the babies get to go with her. So I'm hoping that's going to keep them just a little bit happier, but this little stinker just constantly gets out, and she's an issue. Good morning. Good morning, my sweet girl. Oh, look who wants to be on the stanchion. Good morning. Do you miss our milking? You're such a sweet girly. You're such a sweet girly. So somebody brought up how my animals don't have good enough care. And I actually want to address that because that's something that I think people misunderstand. They just need shelter. The rest of how it looks is actually for us. Like aesthetically, we want a beautiful barn. You know, it makes it easier for us to get in if we have a milking room and all those things, and it's fantastic. But they don't particularly need that to survive. They just need a place to get in out of the weather. And this has worked, as you know, shaggy as it is, has worked for that. Is it the barn that I want? Absolutely not. Is it the barn that I'll have in the end? Absolutely not. But it is working for now. And just because it's not aesthetically pleasing to somebody doesn't mean that it's not what works for the animals. They can get out of the weather and they're just perfectly fine. So, you know, sometimes you have to make that decision of a temporary space and say, this is going to last a certain amount of time. I'm just going to have to deal with it, and then come back and build your perfect little barn, because then financially you can handle it. Otherwise, you don't get any animals, and you miss out on learning your animals, and you miss out on the products that your animals give you if you're waiting to have this beautifully aesthetically pleasing barn in your entire life. You know, your dream barn before you get any critters. I mean, that'd be fantastic if we were all super wealthy, but we're not. So it is what it is. I want to do what my mama does. She's a funny girly. Just in case you were wondering, should you spend the money on a whelping box for your rabbits? She chose to make something over there in the corner. And there's movement. She had babies. What a good mama. Look at how much hair she pulled. So I would say that the whelping box was not worth it. They do what they want. Kira walking Kira back into the pen. We just trimmed her toenails. We're doing some corrective work on the back to see if we can fix her back leg issue. Her hind feet have the toughest nails I have ever clipped. Like, I almost need a grinder to grind them down, but we're gonna let them out into the big pen. So they've spent one day in this area. There was, could you get the fence down? Because I don't like them doing that. This was really thick right there, so they've cleared that. And then they've done some work on the bushes, but I'm excited. Hi, Bojangles. Hi, Bojangles. You missing your group. They really do like getting to go out in the new areas. And we're happy because we don't have to feed them. And Mama gave me a half a gallon of milk last night. So it really does make a difference what kind of roughage they have to eat. So I'm not really feeling good today. I feel like this whole part of my neck is really swollen. And I'm feeling very lethargic and my hands hurt really bad. I was going to work on the drainage system for this kitchen sink and getting the water in, but don't think I'm gonna work on that today. I think I'm gonna finish my wall because I can take lots of breaks from that, and I'm not laying on my back underneath the shipping container. So I've got this wall to finish, and then I can go to like right over here, and then I can get all of my shiplap, like this wall over there, and I really want to get around this window in. Obviously stuff up on the dog crate. I'm finding if you're gonna build a tiny house or live in a tiny house, make sure that there's a place for everything, because if you don't have a place for everything, then you have nowhere to put stuff, and stuff kind of, for me, has been everywhere. Maybe totally different for someone else, but for me, that's been the kind of bane of my existence, is a spot for everything, so that stuff isn't just sitting everywhere. So, but my throat really is hurt. It's this whole section right here just feels super, super swollen. Today is actually Saturday the 20th, unlike what I put in last week, Friday's video, or I don't know when this goes out. But anyway, we have a heat advisory today, so there will be swimming pool time. Good morning, Kira. It's like 6:37 now. We actually got up late. We're only gonna have a couple of hours to be able to work, and then we're gonna have to try to just stay cool, I think. Washington is apparently on fire, so we have a lot of smoke coming over here, and I'm sure there's fires in Canada. We get a lot of that smoke. I don't think there's very many near us. I'll have to actually look that up, but so there's smoke in the air, which definitely affects me. I feel like I'm sick, and I slept all day yesterday pretty much. So I really could be getting sick, but I really want to finish this wall, so I'm going to get started on that and get as much done as I can the next couple of hours, and then basically have to be done for the day. What are you going to do? More yard cleanup? It's like the never-ending story of the yard. Like, we get things in, boxes get thrown outside, then we got to take those over to the trash. We got to load trash and go to the dump. That has to happen too.
Yeah. I take the water tank out first.
Yeah, take out the water tank, then load the trash, and then we could do a dump run. That may not happen today, though. That may happen next week. So Kira asked me the other day, why do I pile up all this stuff? And they're called nests, and it's very typical of autistic people to have these little nests. And I'm so glad that I started researching a lot more about the behaviors of someone who is autistic, because now it doesn't make me mad. Now it just kind of makes me giggle whenever I see this little pile of all of her stuff. But she was just really curious as to why she does that, because everywhere she's at, she has this little pile of stuff. And she was like, oh, it's just really funny. It actually cracks me up whenever I'm watching the reels, how interested the cats are in absolutely everything that we're doing. The dogs have to be put in the crate because they just really get in the way. And one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about lately, and it may be because we've added, 4 cats to the mix-up, is how real of an option is it to actually live full-time, maybe it's just on a homestead, in such a tiny space. And the biggest thing that I'm noticing is that I absolutely have to have purpose in every single space that I have in here. And you really look at what space is wasted, and that's something that I've really been kind of focusing on here lately, is using every single bit of space that I can to the best of its ability. and where could I put storage, where can I add things. So this is a topic that we're totally going to be addressing multiple times probably throughout this build. But Kira is cutting off the spray foam around the window so that I can end up putting the OSB on there. And a question that I've gotten a few times is, why did I use OSB instead of drywall or sheetrock? And it really did start out because of the cost of sheetrock was way more expensive than the cost of OSB. And I don't know how to do drywall. I don't know how, you know, I've never done drywall before, so this seemed a lot more simpler to me. And I'm really glad that I did it. It's just a lot easier to staple all of this shiplap in. So it's so hot outside that it's hard to breathe. There's a little bit of smoke in the air from the surrounding fires. It's not a lot. It's not like it has been in the past few years, but man, I'm like dying of sweat right now. So excited to get this part up so that I can start putting on the shiplap. I do need to add some for around here. Kira's clearing out this window so that I can get the spacing on that. To me, it's so exciting to get all of these walls done. Now this section I've mentioned a couple of times, but you're supposed to treat every video like a new person's here. So if you're new, welcome. I'm glad you made it. I hope you enjoy the videos. Like, share, and comment. But my, oh shoot, what is that thing called? My service panel is gonna go right here. And so I can't cover that yet because I need to put that in and get all the wires in. So I'm just going to partway put shiplap above the door, and then I can combine it all in once that's done. But I have to drill through here, and so I have to rip away all of that spray foam because spray foam will catch on fire, and then drill the hole through to over here, and there's spray foam there, so we got to dig that spray foam out. And again, spray foam catches on fire, so I'm scared. I really don't want to catch the place on fire. But I am going to have to address that pretty soon. I have another hole that I have to drill over above the stove for the vent. And I actually have to use the grinding tool, which is not my favorite. And it throws a lot of sparks, but it's kind of the only way to do it for me, personally. Other people have ways, but just about everybody with these shipping containers use the grinder. All right, we're going to take a break, drink some water, cool off a little bit, and then get back to it.
I'm helping grabbing milk and, okay. I'm pulling out safety. That's yesterday's milk. It's my milk, not the moo milk. Get it?
I can't focus on two things at one time. I'll mess up.
Okay. Oh, guess what? I also remembered to, push the record button this time.
Oh, good. That was a bad idea. This is why they say don't show doing something for the first time. This is not my first time, but it is my first time using this big of chunks of fruit. Take two. Unfortunately, we have to let this freeze for 24 hours. I doubt we're going to do that because it's really hot, but we're going to try to get this in. Since the fruit's already frozen, maybe it won't take as long. Milk freezes pretty fast. This is Kira's mango ice cream. I'm just using whole goat's milk. It's not a half and half or anything, and we use stevia for the sweetener along with the fruit. So Kira did end up loving her mango ice cream. We did not end up spinning it into ice cream, but I definitely say one thing that I did wrong is I put way too much fruit, and I didn't make my normal base that I make when I'm making ice cream, which is the cottage cheese creamed and then usually add some protein powder, a little bit of milk to thin it, and then adding the fruit to it. So that would be what I would do differently. She really liked it, but that's a whole lot of fruit for the flavor of mango. You can do it a little bit different ways. I am absolutely loving how the shiplap is turning out. You know, getting it all painted and all of that, it just brightens up the room a huge amount. And this is not difficult to do. And it's, again, the reason why I ended up using plywood was because of cost. I got basically the same look, and I could get that really wide 6-inch spacing versus the thinner shiplap that you have. So it was less product, less cost, quite a bit easier, I think. You do have the space in between, but it's not turning out to be an issue at all. And we are really dusty here, and so I haven't really had a problem. I do think that I'm probably going to go back and do a polyurethane over everything just to kind of give it wipeability. So, you know, I can wipe down the walls a little bit easier. But right now I'm not really finding that to be an issue. There are spaces where the animals leave prints, you know, the dogs going in and out of the doggy door. We've addressed that issue with their built-in crate. But the cats like to get up on windowsills and then jump down, and their little paws leave marks. I have been able to wipe that off with the sponge with the scrubby on the back. So it's going really smoothly. It looks amazing. Very happy about that. I'm gonna go a little bit over this door, but I'm gonna make it like jagged so that whenever I do this other side, I can connect into it and it looks good. But a couple more pieces at the top. And then our next hardest piece is the one that goes over the top of the dog crate right here. And it actually will go down into that piece so that when you lift it, you don't see the OSB. But we're gonna take a break and then we'll be right back at it. What you doing, Chloe? Who's your good girl? So normally I try to pick a topic and something that's come across this week, but I haven't really found anything this week that people are basically talking about. But I did start doing a little bit of research as to, is it really feasible to homestead in a tiny house? And I think the reason why I was really looking up that question is, one, that's what I'm doing. And two, I think a lot of people want to do it. I just want to get a little tiny home and move out on a piece of property. And that's feasible if you are building other buildings to store things. The one thing about homesteading is you're, processing a cow or processing a bunch of animals. So you're getting a large amount of, let's just say, meat or vegetables when you harvest everything from your garden, and you need a place to store those things. And even just me trying to can some of my milk, I don't know where to put it. Like, once it's canned up, where do I put all these cans? If I want to have a second bedroom in this house, then I lose that whole space that I could be using as a big giant pantry. In my house before, because I had a small single wide trailer in Washington, and the second bedroom was used as a pantry, and I had a 3-year pantry. And that's pretty typical of homesteaders, to have at least a 1-year supply of food and things that they need for their house to run efficiently. But I don't know how I'm going to do that in this house, other than having another building built or using Kira's cabin. She really likes staying inside the house with me, and she doesn't really want to go out there because we were going to get that all set up. And even though the future plan is to have a nice big deck that connects the two, she doesn't really want to be out there. She wants to be right where I'm at, and that's totally fine. So using Kira's cabin, which it'll always be called Kira's cabin, as the storage space is probably the next idea on, you know, having another space to put the things. But then you do have to think about, you have to heat that, you have to, you know, it is insulated really well with the 6-inch walls and all of that kind of stuff, but it still does get cold out there and it does get hot out there. So, you know, again, figuring out how do I get that space heated or cooled or what. I think the cooling makes a little bit bigger of a difference, because if the jars freeze, you know, they can expand and bust. So, you know, either putting some kind of heat source out there. The little propane heater that I have works really well, but that's something that I think you really need to think about if that's what you're going to do. Now, long term for me, I will be building a barn dominium, and I'll have a place for all those things. And then this space, which I've been learning how to do things by building this space, and definitely learning things that I really like and things that I don't like, and what I want to do personally myself versus what I want to maybe hire out or get a lot of help with. I now know I've answered that question. So, you know, I think it's feasible, but I do think that you have to have a lot of different outbuildings. For instance, when we build the barn, the goat barn, I want to have an entire milking room in there that has refrigerators and freezers specifically for milk and possibly the meat. So there'll be a nice big space off of the front of the goat barn eventually that has space for that. I am absolutely loving this now that it's done. I can't believe that I waited so long to do it. It's really funny, but I'm realizing that I don't like any kind of change at all. So even though it's been a hot mess and this has been an easy room to do, it was change. And I definitely am learning that I need to just push through and continue to finish. And I think that goes back to the idea that a topic that I'd gone on before of don't live in the space that you're building. Because if I wasn't living in here, I wouldn't have a problem with completely finishing the room and moving on. But, you know, it becomes very easy in my head. It may not be in yours, but it definitely is in mine. And I have seen this with a lot of people that are building and living in the space that they're building in, is that in order to shift all the things that you're living with to continue the build, that really becomes a pain and is really difficult. I could probably very easily move back into the RV, but I have decided to sell the RV, so it'll just be just this little tiny house, which will eventually be a guest house, a guest space, or if Kira wants her own space when she's here visiting, she could stay in here. She says she doesn't. She wants to be in the big house. So if anybody comes to visit me, you'll get to stay in the tiny house, tree house, which I do have to say I really like. I don't know, you guys, I just absolutely love how this finish is turning out. I highly recommend, if you're thinking about doing shiplap, to look at the plywood, because you can customize the size of the board that you want. And I really like this big chunky. I think it makes the room look bigger. And I love the light and I love the whitewash. And it just really does make me happy. And this room is coming together. So thank you for hanging out with my journey of building my tiny home up here in Northern Idaho. And, you know, I hope you guys come back. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and a comment on your way out. And have a fantastic week.